So welcome to the Devil's Round, guys. We've got week 13 of the Warchief Club. So it's a fortnightly tournament, so we're actually 26 weeks in. Half a year's worth of the Warchief Club, so pat Adico on the back for the achievement, guys. And we've got OmnissiahMaster in the red trunks. Blue trunks, we've got Ekperrins. So both our players picking English. And both of them looking at getting on 3 resources initially. So unlike civs like French or HRE, English are pretty much straight on the wood gathering. It's become pretty standard to get like 6 farms before you age up, and then add another, I don't know, 2 to 4 farms not long after that. So you can really pump out the bow production. What the fuck's going on here? So OmnissiahMaster, it's got a villager inside the house. Don't know what's going on there. She's sitting in the window, peering out, keeping watch. So, does he not realise he's got an idle villager? This is hurting his eco a little bit. So Ekperrins will be able to get a little bit of a gathering advantage over him now. So, I think Omnissiah only went for the 1 scout. Didn't see whether Ekperrins has gone for a second. Yeah, he has gone for a second, so. That idle villager now gathering. So now OmnissiahMaster is able to take advantage of the fact that he hasn't invested in a second scout, so in theory his eco should be ticking over a little bit faster than Ekperrins, but oh well. Ekperrins has gone for a pair of the farms first before he's actually gone for the wheelbarrow. So he's just shy of the wood he needs for that. Well, Omnissiah, his wheelbarrow's coming in. Hasn't started any farms just yet. But the fact that that villager was idle at the start sort of undone. Oh no, here we go. So yeah, Omnissiah did go for 2 scouts. So yeah, Ekperrins definitely going to be a little bit ahead on the gathering. Nothing major, but maybe a little bit counts, especially when you're only at 8 to 10 villages. Having 1 idle when you're at 8 to 10 villages is 10% or more of your economy. When you're at 65 villages and you've got 1 or 2 villages idle, obviously it's much less consequential because, you know, that 1 unit per minute of eco difference that's going to make, it's going to be much less noticeable in a fight because 1 more bowman or spearman's not going to matter so much when you've got, you know, 30 to 40 of the buggers running around as when you've got 5 or 6 of them running around. So small eco mistakes early game actually hurt you a lot more than having a messy eco in the late game. Realistically, even the higher level players aren't often doing everything as optimally as they could. Is that one just inside? So yeah, it is just inside. It's interesting though, because realistically I think Omnissiah is better. Oh, I mean I suppose it's right next to the TC anyway. If you haven't got the TC there though, like if this mill is like over here or something, you know, getting this sort of placement because you're coming away from the mill's not so good, but in this case, you know, it's not so bad because there's a double drop off, so it probably actually works out slightly better for Omnissiah. Ekperrins now up to 6 farms, Omnissiah's on 3. So by the looks of things, Ekperrins is going to sit slightly longer in age 1. Omnissiah is going to be starting that age up now. Yeah, Ekperrins going up to 4 wood gatherers. Well, Omnissiah only had 2, so Omnissiah very slightly faster, but he's, yeah, both of them are 3 on the council hall, so you rarely see them open the other landmark. Council hall's just so valuable because it's basically 2 ranges at once. Now it can only make longbowmen, so if you're expecting to throw down your council hall and then throw down a quick King's Palace or something, and then be able to spit out crossbowmen out of the council hall, forget it. But, in saying that, you know, 2 range production in Age 2, straight off the bat, is quite nice for the English. And in other matchups, what they can often do is go for the council hall, but throw down a barracks, not train anything out of the council hall till they need to, you know, and field a couple of spears first against a civ like French or Rus. But against everyone else, generally, you're just going to stream as many bloody longbowmen as you can early on. Maybe add a stables behind it in an English v English mirror, because obviously, you know, in bowman v bowman, it's all well and good sort of relying on always having the better micro and the better unit production, but you can't always guarantee that's going to happen. So, what do? Well, if you add stables units, you're inherently sort of designed to counter the early bowmen. They won't really do so much against the crossbowmen as such, if there's a front line, but yeah, the early bowman units, whether they're the English longbowmen, whether they're the standard archer, really susceptible to even horseman pressure, but knight pressure in particular, once you get castle. So this matchup can really go one of 2 ways. You know, these guys can try and take a quick castle age from here, but I think with them both only on 2 villages on the gold, they're more likely to just try and get some upgrades in. And, you know, an early double broadaxe is really nice in this matchup. Yeah, early horticulture, also pretty nice, just because English, very food wood oriented composition, if you are going to stick with the feudal comp. So Omnissiah's got a lot of food in the bank at the moment. Not a lot of wood. So realistically, he probably could have had these food gatherers gathering some wood to get either a blacksmith or another production facility. Because English for English, if you can go bowman horseman up against bowman early on, it's just really, really nice. Because not only have you got that good range pressure unit early, you've also got the ideal counter to your opponents. So early broadaxe here for Omnissiah. Broadaxe not on the way yet for Ekperrins. Ekperrins up to 6 longbows. Omnissiah's not been producing them as well so far. He's been struggling a bit with the food eco. I mean the wood eco, like I said, I think he probably could have pulled these sheep gatherers onto the wood. Maybe even pulled 1 or 2 of the farm gatherers onto the wood. Because when you've got this much food in the bank, either you've immediately got to get up to 600 gold so you can then take the quick castle, or you've got to try and equalize this, undercut your food eco and overboom on your wood eco till you sort of get ahead on resources, throw down more production, then pull some villagers back on the food, so you can really equalize this. Because right now both our players floating a lot of food, considering they're not really in the position to go straight to castle. They've both only got 2 gatherers on the gold, so really they're just looking at upgrade trickling through here, getting eco and armory upgrades. In fact, there's not even a blacksmith yet for Omnissiah, so really he's just sort of stuck getting eco upgrades, which is good on English, considering you are going to be at that 15 vil mark on 2 gathering sources quite early on, whereas a civ like French is sort of split across all 3 resources somewhat evenly. So when you've got, you know, 9 villages on each resource, it's not so easy to squeeze in eco-techs, and it's not so advisable to squeeze in eco-techs as when you're doing such a heavily slated eco towards 1 or 2 resources, because really you want at minimum 12 and ideally 15 or 16 villages on a resource while you start taking the ecotech. It's sort of not worth it to go for the ecotech any earlier than that. Obviously with survival techniques and forestry, if you want to go for forestry, you can look at getting them a little bit earlier, because they are a little bit cheaper techs, so you sort of don't need as many villagers gathering to pay off them. But it does look like OmnissiahMaster is now working on a fairly quick castle. So he's fielding a little bit just to make sure Ekperrins can't pressure him. But Ekperrins doing pretty much the exact same comp. So we've got like a dozen bowmen and a couple of horsemen. But OmnissiahMaster is going to be able to have the quicker castle age. So from there he can add knights, and from there he can add crossbowmen if he adds some rangers. Ideally you want to just worry about the knights and a big long bowman count to start with. Force your opponent to actually get some crossbowmen or some knights himself before you worry about your own crossbowmen. So Ekperrins might be looking at trying to go for a second town centre. Well, he's just massing up his forces, but I think OmnissiahMaster is going to have a much more clean-cut build here in the sense that his second town centre is going to be his third age landmark. So Ekperrins is sort of forced to push out uncomfortably here, I think, because he wants to go for a second town centre and he wants to take a castle age behind it. But OmnissiahMaster, having gone straight for castle age for English, it generally is going to be a second town centre anyway. So he's going to be able to start knight production and get veteran longbows out in the field a little bit quicker than Ekperrins. I mean, Ekperrins obviously going to have a cheaper second town centre because you've got 700 resources versus 1800 for the castle age. But, you know, that extra 1100 resources does end up going towards what's going to make his army a little bit stronger. Because from there, he can take his veteran upgrades, he can add some knights. So Ekperrins needs to be a little bit careful that he doesn't throw away any of his army here, because he's going to be down in age trying to fight. Ooh, and he managed to pick off OmnissiahMaster's scout, but he's now not gathering there, so that hurts a bit. So, bit of a pro tip, guys: if you are going to have your villagers attack a scout that's chipping away at a villager, rally them back onto the stone afterwards. Shift command the attack. I do like this. Ekperrins is potentially going to punish OmnissiahMaster for the fast castle. Because, I mean, if your opponent does go for that, that's 1100 resources you can put towards rams, more units, faster blacksmith upgrades, and take advantage of him not going for veteran upgrades immediately, although there is longbow vet versus base longbows. So this should be a tough fight for Ekperrins, because even though OmnissiahMaster's put more resources into tech here, it may yet pay off because he's already got knights, he's already got vet longbow, but he really needs his vet longbows to be focusing down the longbows. Ekperrins losing the ram pretty quickly there though, so that's a big cost to him because those things are not cheap. But it looks like OmnissiahMaster pretty much run out of a front line right now, so he's having to rely on vet longbows versus horsemen. Considering the horsemen don't have their vet upgrade, ooh, and that's a bit unlucky for Ekperrins. They don't have the vet upgrade, so they aren't going to last terribly long. I don't know. They do have ranged armor, tier 1, but you sort of need tier 2 or vet armor to really, or vet upgrade to really compete with longbows once they've got their vet upgrade, because it adds 10 health, adds 2 damage. So another ram incoming, but considering how many villagers are here, they should be able to clean this up fairly quickly. And there are some knights now out in the field. And these are quite a bit tankier than the horsemen, but they are twice as expensive, bearing in mind. So OmnissiahMaster not quite yet able to really take advantage of his tech lead, but at the same time Ekperrins has lost 2 rams now, so that's 600 wood for very, very little gain there. A minor amount of health off the King's Palace, so both our players pretty much left without a front line at the moment. Not uncommon in English v English until both players really get towards massing up knights. But Ekperrins realizing he's going to have to try and add towers, but I do think he probably would be best off bringing only 2 to 4 villages, not 8. Considering that's a big economic commitment to make. Like Ekperrins has, oh, he's got 49 villages, so I suppose this is only about, what, 8 to 10% of his eco. Actually, no, sorry. More like 15% of his eco. So, being English, both our players really can just rely on mill eco. Because you can hit 10... Yeah, you can hit 10 milled farms, and on top of that, your mills make them gather about 30% faster compared to the other civs. Ekperrins is really wanting to put the pressure on here. I think this is quite dangerous, because this is a hefty commitment. Like, he hasn't yet got castle, so even if he does want to go for a big man-at-arms and spearman push here, he's only going to have early man-at-arms. He's not going to have vet. He needs to get castle age if he really wants to be scary, because now that OmnissiahMaster has access to knights, he's got a reasonable counter to man-at-arms, and veteran longbowmen are at least going to trade well against pre-vet man-at-arms. Like, if going for man-at-arms longbow is a great way to mess up English players as an English player, but the problem is if you fall behind on upgrades, it doesn't really work so well. You sort of need to rely on going into it with equal army upgrades, and you can honestly make man-at-arms longbow work against horseman longbow. Because really, you just add a handful of spears in, and you can just pick off the horsemen, and your own man-at-arms can just run straight into the longbows. But problem is, when you're down on upgrades, and when you throw your spears away like that, it doesn't work so well. Because, I mean, the spears are useful against the knights, but at the same time, down on the longbow tech, it's going to hurt for Ekperrins here. His castle age isn't on the way yet. And right now, OmnissiahMaster, healthily in castle, going to be able to start adding monks so he can heal his army. He can take these relics, he can start contesting sacred sites. Really important, because the passive gold gen from the relics will pay off a monk in a minute and a half. And then of course, if you got one monk active, you can get 2 or 3 relics from him, you can get a sacred site from him, you can have him healing army units. There's a couple more rams here for Ekperrins. He really wants to make this push work, but I get the feeling that if it doesn't work now, he's probably lost the game from here, because he is pretty significantly behind in terms of tech at this point. OmnissiahMaster, having castle age over him, has access to the stronger cavalry front line. He's got much stronger longbowmen at this point. These guys can even just focus down the horsemen reasonably, considering they've got upgrades, so they can actually fight their counter unit, because they are essentially an age ahead. And oh, I think Ekperrins is going to get repelled here, unfortunately for him. OmnissiahMaster, really nice defense there, cleaning up both rams, just using his villages. Now the knights can really stream forward. They are going to meet spearmen, but while they are fighting against low numbers, they actually can win that fight. You need to be very careful that you don't run your 6 knights into 10 or 12 spearmen, because they will just die, but against 1 or 2, things aren't so bad. Just bearing in mind, spears cost 1/3 of what knights cost, and they also train in about half the time. So I do think OmnissiahMaster needs to probably add a ram to clean this up. His own longbowman can't really stick around here, but at the same time, he pretty much has quelled the push, and Ekperrins needs to get castle age behind this. He's got plenty of gold, but he's struggling to get the food he needs at the moment. Ooh, so OmnissiahMaster having to bring the knights back, because Ekperrins now has a handful more spears and vills. But this is nice. OmnissiahMaster is just going to clean up the spears, focus down the closest tower, kill the closest, the old MOBA adage. Sometimes focusing the high priority target's not the way to go, sometimes just the closest target, the safest target, keeping your own shit alive is the smarter decision. So now OmnissiahMaster going to clear another tower. These other ones Not really of any effect. Oh well, that's one of his own. So if he stands inside that, he'll get a nice boost. He's put a tower there. Really nice play from him, so attack speed boost for all of his shit. And now Ekperrins finding himself on the back foot, having to try take Castle Age and defend at the same time. He's committed to that second town centre, but he's overgathered quite substantially on the stone. And he's even overgathered a little bit on gold, while he's going to have to try and get plenty of wooden food to field an army, while getting more food on top of that to actually get his Castle Age. So OmnissiahMaster going to start on the relic grabbing. So he's going to go for one of these more distant relics rather than one of his safe ones. Sometimes it's the way to go, because if you can pinch your opponent's relics, you can always come back and get your own. Obviously they can apply the same strategy, so it can end up really interesting, and in that case, you know, players are often, oh, I'll go for my own ones first just to make sure I get them. So I end up with some relics rather than none. Especially, you know, if you've got the later age 3. Huh? Is he going to get the scout? He will. So OmnissiahMaster converting a scout. Nothing really substantial, but I mean, you know, you not only kill the scout, but you also get it that way, as opposed to just killing it. So all the more power to OmnissiahMaster. The Ekperrins, oh, distance gathering over here, but I imagine he can probably look at leapfrogging some towers around the sacred site. He probably was hoping to try and grab that relic. So it does look like these 3 relics up here are going to be pretty easy for OmnissiahMaster to grab. Ekperrins has also got this other one here. With his slower Castle Age, he's probably not even worried about it. He's probably thinking, I'll just add Man-at-Arms, I'll just add Knights, I'll just get me bowman upgrades. So everything's been cleared out of the mid-map there by OmnissiahMaster, who's probably just thinking, well, if I just keep adding some more armory techs, and at this rate just push with some siege, I might be able to seal the game from here. Because, I mean, even without... Well, I mean, he doesn't even need to worry about adding crossbowmen. The main cavalry front line there is just all horsemen. So, longbows with upgrades in and of themselves. While this is their counter, the fact that there's no knights, and the fact that there's no bowman advantage for Ekperrins means that I think OmnissiahMaster is fine to just basically do this with what he's got at the moment. So horsemen without upgrades are actually going to be beaten by the unit they're supposed to counter here. And there's enough knights they can just tank unupgraded longbowman fire. So OmnissiahMaster really able to just stream everything forward. Not even finishing off the rams at this point, because he knows if he cleans up the army, he can always come back and build the rams much more safely. And this way he keeps all his knights alive. And GG, Ekperrins to tap out, guys. So that's game number 1. That's round number 1 for TWC 13.